Hello, everyone. My name is Dimitri. I'm the developer of InfraNodus, a visual AI text analysis tool, and I welcome you to this webinar where we will learn about the new filtering features of InfraNodus that can be used for cohort analysis, segment analysis. I will show you how you can filter your data by meta properties and how you can use those meta properties to analyze your textual information, retrieve the main topics, concepts for all kinds of use cases, ranging from marketing and search engine optimization to your personal research and explorations. So if you're interested in this, keep watching. And as usual, we will have a Q&A session that you can also ask questions in during the webinar. So for that, you can have access to the Zoom's chat, and also you can ask questions on our YouTube channel at Nodus Labs. So if you would like to ask anything, or if you would like me to clarify anything, please feel free to ask it on Zoom. So we will just wait for the few participants to join in. Let me know if you hear everything well, and if everything is working fine. If something is not working, let me know. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to wait for a few more participants to come in, and then we will start the session. So we have a chat enabled that you can also participate in the webinar chat. And also you have a Q&A section in your Zoom, so you can also use that as well. When I receive questions, I will be answering them after I finish talking about a certain topic. So just if you have anything to ask, feel free to post it in the Q&A or in the chat. And thank you, Earmark, for letting me know that you hear everything well. And Chaplin, chat is enabled. So if you go back to chat now, I think it should be working fine for you. So just check it out. If it's not working, you can use Q&A section of Zoom, and also you can go to our YouTube channel. I will send the link to the YouTube channel of InfraNodus into the chat right now, and you will be able to find the webinars there when it's done. And we will also be able to share this webinar with others, maybe your friends or whoever you're interested in joining you. You will be able to do that by sharing the link with them. All right, so I think we have more or less everyone joining in now. We have several dozens of participants, so this is really great. At first, I would like to share some polls with you so that I learn a little bit more about what you're working on. And then we will also post the anonymized responses to those polls. So you should be seeing a poll right now on your screen, which is asking you what is your main use case for InfraNodus. Your answers will help me understand what you're working on so that I can also custom tailor this webinar for your needs. So you will see the poll right now on your screen, and you can just answer the questions as we go along. I have a few more polls available, and I will be posting the results of each poll to this webinar, so you will also be able to see what others responded, so you get a better understanding of who else is using InfraNodus. All right, so right now, most of the people answered that they use InfraNodus for knowledge management and scientific research. Not so many people for marketing and SEO yet. This is just the participants of the webinar. Almost everyone participated in this, so this is good. And I'm going to post the responses right now to the screen, so you will be able to see how others responded to this. Okay, so now we can continue. And first I will demonstrate to you a really nice new feature that I'm really happy about that we added into InfraNodus. I will demonstrate how it works using a very simple example first, and then I will show you how you can use it for some more complex data sets. So I just want to show you first how it works, and then I will demonstrate some specific use cases where you can apply it, whether you're doing survey research, for example, or whether you're doing marketing research. And in fact, even if you're not into marketing or search engine optimization, you will find this workflow super useful because it will allow you to see how you can understand what people are searching for. So for instance, if you're working on research or if you're a writer, it's also a very interesting workflow to have at your disposal because you will be able to actually learn what kind of content is most interesting to your potential audience. So it's a very useful workflow that can be applied not only in marketing, but also if you're a content creator or if you're a writer or a researcher, just to understand a little bit better what your potential audience might be interested in. Okay, so the feature that I will be talking about today is the new filtering feature in InfraNodus that is available through this button, Filter By, and this allows us to do cohort analysis. So basically what we can do using this feature is import any sort of data that has metadata tags in this case. So for instance, here are the search results from YouTube for the term AI tools. I will actually show you how I do this. So I go to apps page and I would like to see what are the videos available on YouTube at the moment on the topic of AI tools. So I type in AI tools here, click next, then I choose YouTube search results here as the import source. And once I chose that, I can specify the name for the graph. So I'm going to do that here, visualize. And then what InfraNodus does is that it extracts the titles of the top 50 videos and their descriptions and shows me what already exists out there on YouTube on the topic of AI tools. This is very useful because it enables me to see the current informational supply. So I understand a little bit better what's already out there, what kind of content exists on this topic on YouTube. So if I'm making new videos on YouTube, I obviously want to make sure that I cover all those topics, but that I also contribute in some meaningful way to this discourse. And the most meaningful way to do that is to maybe introduce new topics that link to the old ones or to connect those topics in interesting ways. And as you already know, InfraNodus has the content gaps feature that allows you to see what are the gaps in the current discourse and then use the built-in AI to generate interesting research questions and ideas that bridge those gaps. So this is kind of like a use case for how you could use this feature of YouTube search results analysis. So for example, here I can see that when people search for AI tools on YouTube, they find a lot of content that proposes them something that's free. So if I click on the node, I can see free. And then if I click on the statements here, I can see that a lot of videos are about free AI tools or top free AI tools, also video. So that's obviously there because a lot of people write this video is about this and that in the description. So in fact, what I can do is to delete this term because I'm not interested in it. And then I see a little bit better what those clusters are. So I see that a lot of people are putting content on free apps and so on. Then top AI tools, and then also research and productivity, some of the main topics. So it's interesting because it shows me that a lot of content on YouTube on AI tools is about research and productivity, and also some business stuff over here. But usually this can be quite overwhelming. So the filters are there to help you find the most interesting stuff on which you should focus if you want to promote this content to the audience. So one way to do that is to go into filters and then you see all the possible tags here. So basically when it imports YouTube video search results, it shows how many comments these videos have, how many likes and how many views. So obviously I would like to see what are the most popular videos, but I'm not going to focus on the most popular ones because these are outliers. I will rather go to the ones that have maybe from, let's say, 2,000 views to maybe 20,000 views. That's something that I can compete with. So these are not the most popular ones, but this number of views is still quite good. Or I could even choose from 20,000 to 136,000. And when I choose this filter and click highlight, I'm going to see the part of the graph, which is only the videos that have this number of views from 20,000 to 136,000. And as I can see, it covers almost the whole graph, but Now some things are not covered. So for example, this automation stuff, they seem to not be in that cohort there. So that's a good insight for me. Maybe videos that are more general are the ones that I should focus on. I can further narrow this filter down and say, okay, show me the videos with this number of views, but that also have a, let's say, this number of likes. Not the highest number of likes, but relatively high, from 800 to 3000. So I can select this filter, and by default, it's going to show me both the first filter and the second filter. So it's a combination of those, but I can also ask InfraNodus to show me an overlap. So which videos have this number of views and at the same time overlap with this number of likes. And if I click here, then I see the overlap. Okay, so then it provides me a much better understanding of what those most popular videos are about. And if I want, I can also choose to filter this information and only see the part of the graph where the number of views is from 20,000 and the number of likes is from 800. So then I have a much cleaner version, and all these topics are calculated also, so I have a much more precise understanding of what those videos are about. So I can see that a lot of them are about free videos, okay, but then also a lot of them are about productivity and creativity, so that could be one topic to focus on. And then another one is maybe research and videos for researcher or for those who work on research papers. So that gives me an understanding that videos that have quite a few views, but not too many views, and that have quite a few likes, but not the most likes, we'll focus on those topics. So I can then, if I want to produce content, focus on those videos. So this is how that would work. Now I want to show you a really practical use case, because this was just to demonstrate how the filters work. I'll show you a really nice practical use case that is used by search engine optimization professionals, where you work with spreadsheets and you can apply the same sort of cohort analysis to your spreadsheet. So here I'm using a popular tool for search engine optimization called Ahrefs. And it has several different applications, but the one we're interested in right now is the Keyword Explorer. So when you go to Keyword Explorer, you can choose which keyword you want to analyze. And in this case, I'm going to analyze the same search query, AI tools. So I want to see what kind of keywords people use when they search for AI tools. So what's nice in Ahrefs is that you can see directly the search volume, and that's a pretty good one, 30,000 a month in the United States. And then I can see that it's trending. It's growing since a few years, a couple of years, right? Since AI became a thing. In fact, most of it is searched in India, but we're just analyzing the United States data now. Then I go to matching terms, and what Ahrefs shows me here are all the different keyword combinations that are related to AI tools. So why it's interesting? Because it gives me a really good idea of what's happening in people's heads when they think about AI tools. And if I want to put a product on the market, which is an AI tool, or if I want to write about them, I want to make sure that I touch upon all the different topics they're thinking about, so that I tap into this discourse in the most effective way. And as you can see, it's a list of 60,000 keywords. So that's a bit too much. And usually when you do this kind of analysis, you want to filter this data down to bring it to some manageable number, like a few thousand. So what you normally do is that you want to find the keywords that have not too high keyword difficulty. So let's say that we don't want to go above 50. So we reduce the keyword difficulty, show results. And the keyword difficulty basically means how many other websites are ranking at the top of Google search results for this query. So when I limit it to 50, I tell Ahrefs that, okay, show me only the keyword combinations that are not so competitive, for which at least I have a chance as a newcomer, for instance, to be shown at the top of search results. And also another thing I want to do is to select something with a relatively high search volume. Let's say from 500 a month. So I already have 600 keywords only now. Let's see how much further I limit this number. 16. So maybe that's a bit too little. Let's maybe say that we want volume from 100 and see how many we have here. So here we have 200 different keyword combinations that have a low keyword difficulty. So that means that it's easy to rank high, both in search results and also, by the way, in LLM outputs. If you want to be shown in Perplexity or in ChatGPT output, for instance, with your product, you want it to be not too competitive, and the volume is still relatively high, so that at least we know at least 100 people a month in the US are searching for it. Okay, so we have 251 keywords here. In fact, let's increase the difficulty a little bit more because I want to show you how it works with more data. So let's see 60, and we have volume from 50, for instance. Let's see how many we have here. So 500 is good. Then we export this as a CSV file. So I say export all the 578 keyword combinations as a CSV file in UTF-8 format, export it as a CSV. And then I'm going to import this CSV file into InfraNodus, and I will perform cohort analysis on that file. So I will choose different segments of those keywords and see what are the different combinations of them. So in fact, I have a file which I already prepared before here, available to me. So it's the same AI tools matching terms. And then I choose that file. I think I have more results there because maybe I didn't use such aggressive filters there. And then in the first panel, in the columns that I want to analyze in InfraNodus, I say that I want to analyze the column with the keywords because I just want to see the graph of the keywords and their combinations, okay? So I select just the keywords here, and then on the next panel where I choose the filters, this is what I'm going to be using for filtering and cohort analysis. I'm going to choose the difficulty and the volumes because I want to be able to find which keyword combinations have low difficulty and high volume. Okay, so I choose difficulty and volume here, then I click next, and I will name this graph, give it a new name, and then when I click visualize, what happens, if you already know how InfraNodus works, is that it visualizes these keyword combinations as the node. So each keyword is a node and co-occurrence is the connection, and then it applies network science metrics to understand which keywords have the most influence or that rank the highest here and what are the clusters. So the first thing you should always do is to actually select the keywords that you don't want to see in the graph and hide them from here. Obviously, as we're looking at AI tools matching terms, we see AI and tool in the graph, so they kind of overtake too much attention. So we select those two words and then we hide them from the graph to see the context around. And then now we start seeing what people search for and what they find when they search for AI tools. So I turn on the AI topics here. I go into the analytics panel and ask InfraNodus to show me the main clusters. So I can see that most of the people, when they search for AI tools and when they find something on AI tools, they're interested in video creation. So this is kind of like the main cluster. My insight on this is that if I want to go into this market, or if I want to create any content related to AI tools, I should probably focus on video creation because that's a big topic at the moment. Okay, so that already gives me this very clear insight. By the way, imagine trying to get this from here. It would be slightly difficult. You know, you would have to look through very complex tables, many different pages, and you cannot really get those patterns easily from spreadsheets. But that's what InfraNodus allows you to do. You can use your natural visual recognition computer in your head to get this really nice patterns out. So we have video creations here, then we have content detection. So that's interesting because we can explore later what this cluster means. Then data optimization, that's another one. And teaching excellence, so something how AI tools can be used for teaching. So that gives us a really nice understanding of the general topics. And here we have more market automation, business management, and so on. We understand what people search for and what they find when they look for AI tools. So for instance, in my case, as I'm working on a visual AI text analysis tool in InfraNodus, then video creation is not so interesting for me. I could be interested more in content detection and data optimization. So let's actually see how we can apply those filters that I was showing you to get to the data that we can do something about. Because obviously everyone will understand that video creation is a big thing at the moment. So how do we find those low difficulty but high volume keywords? And this is where we use the new filters feature. So we go into filters here and we ask InfraNodus to show us the keywords that have search volume that is the maximum from 1,300 and above. Let's just see what are those keywords. So as I expected, video generation is highly competitive. There's high volume, and I'm pretty sure that if we then choose to filter the graph just by this category, you will see that the remaining categories are in all kinds of difficulties, but if I want a lower difficulty, I can click here and then choose highlight. And I will see that, okay, if I want something not difficult in video generation, AI tools, something I could offer for free, but I'm not interested in that because I need to make a living and to earn money with this product, right? So that I see is not such an easy thing to address, because if I go into something high volume and high difficulty, then yes, image generation, video generation. So that perhaps is not a very good market for me to start from. And anyway, it's not really relevant to me because I'm working on a text analysis tool. All right, so now I can choose to go into volume 150 to 1,200. This is good because it's not the top volume, right? So this is something that I will have some audience, but that will be not as competitive because not so many people are searching for it. So I don't have to compete with incumbents. And I will choose 150 to 1,200. I click highlight. Let's see, it still covers all of the graph. And now I start adding filters. So I ask InfraNodus, okay, show me high volume from 150 to 1,200, but show me something that would have relatively low difficulty. So 30 to 59. And when I select this, I will click highlight. Now it shows me both filters. So what I need to do, that's very important. You can choose this toggle here to show an overlap of those two filters. Okay, so you want to see which keyword combinations have this volume and at the same time this low difficulty. Okay, so this is this toggle switch here, and then I click highlight, and then I can see that I still have the free video image generation, but I also have content creation. I also have market automation analysis, writing, and so on. So now what I can do is to actually filter the graph to show me just the keyword combinations that have this volume and which is relatively high, and this low difficulty, relatively low difficulty. If I click filter here, I can see that, okay, so video editing now is something that comes up a lot, but I'm not interested in video. Data analysis. So this is an insight that I have directly here. If I want to create AI tool that would have not so much competition because the difficulty is relatively low, but still a relatively good volume of interest, this is the thing I should focus on. And actually, specifically also this data visualization and data analysis. And this is very suitable to me as the creator of InfraNodus. It can do data analysis, it can do data visualization. So here I get a direct insight by applying those filters and combining them together to see the cohorts of keywords that have a relatively high volume and relatively low difficulty. So this is how you get insights from those filters. Once again, if you try to do that using these spreadsheets, good luck. You wouldn't really be able to do that. And this is where InfraNodus is really powerful for analyzing any spreadsheet data that has the main column that you want to analyze and some metadata that you can use for filtering. Whether it's numbers or some categories, for instance, you can actually use both, right? So this is very good. And also I see that business automation tools is another one. Okay, now that I get this, I become a little bit greedy and I say, okay, but what about even lower difficulty? So let's say this is still a little bit difficult. Let's see what would happen if I chose the lowest difficulty. So I can remove this filter. I'm still in that overlap mode, right? So when I select this filter now from 1 to 29 and I apply it, I will see the keywords that have the lowest difficulty but relatively high volume of search. And still data analysis comes up. When I click this, I select exactly what people are searching for, data analysis, okay? Also search, AI search data analysis, so that's interesting. And then market research is another one. So the tools for AI market research and AI data analysis seem to have relatively high volume of search, low difficulty. So this to me is direct, actionable insight if I would like to develop into the market of AI tools. I should probably focus on creating content on how you do data analysis and market research with my tools. And also, by the way, here we have for small businesses. So here I have an outline of a marketing strategy. And also here, AI generated the names of those clusters for me. So that can also be helpful if you want to create an interpretation. By the way, if at some point you would like to maybe create like an outline of possible content, you can save this data into your project notes. So I go into project notes and then I auto-generate the outline of this from analytics. Okay, so I can actually save it to notes here, this button. And then I can ask InfraNodus to use the built-in AI to generate an outline of this article for me. So then it can kind of help me think into the direction of what kind of content I can create. So here you see Unlocking Success, a comprehensive guide to leveraging data and innovation across various business sectors. So that's kind of like some content ideas I can use to then create content on the subject. I would never use AI to actually write those articles, but sometimes it's useful to kickstart my own brainstorming and thinking process. And by the way, that's not even necessary to use AI here. I can just see this data analysis and market research, small business. So that already gives me a really good understanding of the keyword combinations I could target. So it means I need to make an article on data analysis with AI, on market research with AI, and then put it online, make sure it's on our landing page, and then search engines will crawl that, have it saved into their system, and also LLMs as well. So this is how you would use it in a very practical way. And by the way, if you're doing research, for instance, you could do this for any of your topics. You know, like if you're not at all into marketing, but for instance, you're studying nano materials, right? What you can do is to actually type this in, and then you will get the same kind of data here. By the way, you also see the trend of how often it's searched for. So you find the matching terms, and then you export this file. Let's say we want all 1617 because we don't want to use those filters here. Then we go back to InfraNodus. We import that file, and now as a researcher who is interested in nanomaterials, I can understand a little bit better what's the current picture on that topic, what people search for and what they find. So I choose to analyze this keyword column here. Then I will choose to filter by difficulty and volume again. Click Next. Give a name to my graph. And what's great here is that even though I'm not interested to actually create any products or market this product, I can use this approach to understand how I should write about nanomaterials if I want my research to be read, if I want it to be relevant. I think anyone who writes wants what they write to be seen by others. So that's also a very good way to understand what kind of topics you should focus on to ensure that. So here, once again, I select nanomaterial, I hide it from the graph, and then I can see that there are several topics. We use the AI generated topic names here. Carbon applications, this is one, synthesis methods, impact factors, engineering projects. So then I can simply ask InfraNodus to generate this kind of outline of the main topics here, and then ask it to generate an outline of an article that would cover all those topics. I have another video actually, which is talking about how you can use this approach to somehow introduce your ideas to any discourse. So that can be done also for search engine optimization, but also if you're a writer or researcher, you study the main topics and then you make sure that whatever it is you're writing about covers all those topics, but that you introduce new connections using this content gaps feature. So that's exactly the same approach. If I want to write about nanomaterials, I will write about carbon applications, synthesis methods, engineering projects, and impact factors, but I will at the same time also add something novel, like maybe a new take on it, or somehow find how I can connect those in different ways. And if I want to see what other high volume, low difficulty keyword combinations here, I can choose volume again, choose highlight to see, okay, so with volume it's just nanomaterials, so we need to choose a slightly lower volume here. Okay, so applications, it seems to be pretty popular search topic. Okay, and then let's say I want to see the difficulty above 30, and I want to have an overlap of those filters, and I see that nanomaterials research is a popular one, so I want to see more. That's why I'm going to choose lower difficulty here in the filters, apply it again, conference. Okay, let's go even lower. It seems to be not a very competitive topic, and here I have more information. So types, definition, and market. And if I want to then see just this graph, I click filter, recalculate, and then it just shows me the concepts I should focus on. Market, definition, impact, and applications, and so on. So this is how you could also use it for research and for understanding what other terms and topics you should use when you write about a certain topic. So that would be how you do this for search engine optimization, marketing, and also for understanding how to promote your own writing. Right now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And in the meanwhile, I'm just going to post another poll so that we see what kind of data sources you like to be using to analyze your data. So if you could answer this poll, this would be really helpful. And if you have any questions, also feel free to ask them now in the chat and in the Q&A. I'll also post the results of this poll to this webinar so you can see how the others answered anonymously, of course. I can see that a lot of people are answering that they use CSV data exported from other tools. So that's great because I just demonstrated to you how you export a CSV file from Ahrefs. Maybe if you can write to me which tools you actually use in the chat, that would be really helpful because we could also create some integrations like this. You don't need to manually export a CSV file and import it into InfraNodus, but we could just create connections to those tools if a lot of people use them. And I also see that a lot of people use just text files to import their data. And this is actually the next use case I want to demonstrate. I will show you the results right now so you can see how the others answered. I'm going to show you how you can actually apply the same cohort analysis with the plain text files with actual transcripts of conversations. So it's not only limited to CSV files and spreadsheets or the data that has meta tags. In fact, when you import several files, you can also do the same thing. And I'm going to show you how you can use filters for that. So if you answer that you use external sources, I will appreciate if you can write to me which external sources you use in the chat of Zoom so that we can understand it a little bit better. All right, so let's move on to the next demonstration. Somebody is asking in the Q&A section, will this be available for review later on YouTube? Yes, this is being streamed to YouTube, so you will be able to watch it on our YouTube channel, and I put the link to the chat. Someone is writing to me that it's disabled, but in fact, I can see that I enabled it to everyone. However, if you cannot use it, feel free to just write something in the Q&A. Maybe it's a Zoom bug, but I have the chat enabled to everyone. I will enable it once again, just in case, so you can see the link there. But if you need to answer, then you can just answer in the Q&A section. So some people are saying that they use Google Colab, Markdown files, and so on. So I'll actually show you how you can use this filter feature with the plain text files, but you can also use it with Markdown files as well. All right, so here I have another example where I have transcripts of interviews with people who are addicted to different substances. Okay, so let me find this data set here. I will open that file in a second. So let me just find it on my computer because as a lot of people answer text files, I want to show how it works with text files actually. I think it will be interesting. Okay, so we have transcripts here, and basically what I'm gonna do, I will import 7 different interviews with those people. So you see there are transcripts here, and each transcript has a name of the person who was answering those questions. So it's 7 different people who were answering questions about their experience with substance abuse, and we want to understand what they're saying, what they're going through, what their experiences are, and so on. Um, so once we select those files, we go here. And what we do is that we say we want to treat it as an audio transcript. Why it's important is because then it will use the name of the interviewer and the speaker as a meta tag, and you will be able to filter by that later. So if you have this data in the file, then choose this option, treat it as an audio transcript. And then we create a new graph, transcripts, click next, and InfraNodus does exactly the same thing as before. It extracts the texts from those files. These are 7 long interviews, visualizes them as a graph. Each word is a node, concurrence of the words is the connection, then it builds a network graph and visualizes how it looks like. By the way, you probably know that we're working on a 3D version of that, so soon you will be able to experience it like this, where you will be able to have a 3D graph. Now it's available in our extension. You can download it from infranodus.com, and you can see a very simple overview of the main topics that are identified in the text. For example, you see that they're talking about emotional growth, recovery journey, and family dynamics. So if I'm interested to see what they say about family dynamics, I simply click on this, and then I can see which terms they use and how they talk about this stuff, right? So for example, they're talking a lot about their friends and maybe also people. So when I click on friends and people, I can see in which context they said those terms. This is still in the works, but I just wanted to show you this visualization because it's pretty cool, and soon we will introduce it into the main version as well. Right now it's available in the extension, so you can install the extension and use this graph already and give us your feedback on how it works. So anyway, we have a visualization here of the transcripts. And right now I just get a nice overview of the main topics. Once again, I like to clean the data first. So because it's an interview transcript, we will have a lot of words like kind, yeah, so I just select those words and hide them from the graph. Then InfraNodus automatically recalculates the graph. Also, and maybe lot are the words that we don't need. And now I think we're more or less good. So now let's see what the main topical clusters are by switching this button here and going into main ideas. So we see that they're mainly talking about relapse journeys. So their experience of relapsing into substance abuse, time management, emotional connections, back treatment. And here we have more topics, addiction struggles and life choices. So now what's interesting is that one thing that we can do is to filter those transcripts to remove everything that the interviewer actually said. So I select the tag with the interview here, click highlight. So I just see the questions that the interviewers asked, which is already actually very interesting because it allows me to analyze what the interviewer was actually saying, right? But I can also select all those statements and remove them from the graph so that I'm only left with whatever it is that the participants actually answered. So these filters can also be used to actually clean your data really quickly and nicely, so you get rid of the stuff you're not interested in, just like I did with the words now. Now I removed everything that the interviewer said, so now I just have the responses of the interviewees. And here I can apply the same thing. For instance, now I see what all of them are saying that is in common. So I can improve the alignment a little bit. We see that they're talking about temporal dynamics, recovery journey, time reflection, emotional awareness. But let's say I'm interested only in what Jonathan and Toby said. I can select those two, click highlight, and then I will just see their discourse. And as I can see, it's not that much different from the others. So it's actually pretty interesting that almost all of them, they say absolutely the same thing as others. But when I analyze it one by one, maybe I will also see some discrepancies and maybe find somebody who used the words and the concepts that others were not using. Maybe this is not going to be the case, but let's see them one by one. So in fact, it looks like all of them are using more or less the same concepts. But the advantage here is that now if I just want to analyze what, for example, Breen is saying only, I can actually turn on the filter here, and then I just see the graph of what Breen said. So I can see that it's 11% of all the statements. And now I can see what are the different topics that Breen is talking about. And I can see that they're also talking about recovery journey, but also back treatment, emotional time, and also prison life. So this person got in the prison, so I understand a little bit more about their discourse. Then if I click on this topic, I can see what they actually said specifically when they talked about prison. So I can click on prison and maybe time, and then I can see exactly the statement where they're talking about prison. So that's really great because, as you can see, I filtered first by the person, and then I found some information that I'm interested in what this particular person said, and then I click on the terms, and then I can see exactly the statement that they said about prison and their time in prison. And here are all the statements they said about prison. And what's nice is that I can either read them or I can click this button, AI Summarize Visible, and then InfraNodus will summarize all the filtered statement of this person, bring what they said about prison. So here I have like a summary of everything they said about prison, and that's really great if you are analyzing transcripts, or if you're doing thematic analysis, or if you're analyzing interviews, customer feedback also. That's very useful because you can select the topics or the concepts that are relevant to you, and then see exactly what people said and also create summaries of that. So that's really useful, and this is where the filtering feature can be very helpful. Now, let me know if you have any questions. I will read the questions now from the YouTube live that we have on our channel and answer some of those questions, and then also in the Q&A section in the chat. So in YouTube, Victor is asking, can you also say something about prepping your own CSV file so one gets a little bit more control filtering on the input? So that's a very good question. Let me actually show you how that would work. So I'm just going to open a Google Sheet file, and I will show you how I normally do it myself so that you can understand a little bit better how you would prepare your own data and what kind of data you can use for filtering. So here I have a CSV file. You should be seeing it right now in the webinar feed. And basically what you want is to first choose which columns you want to analyze. So for example, let's say it's a survey, right? So I will have one column with the responses of people, and then somebody said one thing, somebody said no, somebody said something else. So this will be the text that I will be analyzing. And then as meta tags, I would like to use something that I can filter by. So for instance, it could be gender. So I can say male, female, male. Then it can be age. I can just write the age, or I can use a age bracket. In fact, what's nice is that if you just have a number here, InfraNodus will automatically create quantile buckets for you. So it will group those values by 5 buckets. So you don't need to do it yourself, and you can just use numerical values and then filter by them, like I showed earlier on in the filters. You can also have other kind of information like location, maybe country, but just make sure that the number of values that you have in your filtering columns is less than the number of rows, right? Because otherwise, if you have as many values as the number of rows, then it's very hard to filter by them. So it just needs to be some dimension that you could filter by. And it needs to be some dimension that you would be interested to also combine. Like, let's say I have rating here, and it says 5, 4, and 3. So that allows me to see what are the people from the US who are giving high rating are saying, right? So it really depends on the kind of questions you want to ask to your data. These would be the filters that you will be using here. So this would be one way to prepare it. Just choose the segments by which you would like to analyze and compare this data, and then add this information into the system. And when you export it from external tools, make sure that you have this data available to you. So as I said, for customer reviews, can be pretty useful to analyze by rating and location, for instance, because then you understand what other people in different locations think about your product and what are the different concerns they have. It could also be maybe the source, like where they come from to find your product, for instance, or the use cases and so on, right? So this would be one way to prepare your data. Another way to prepare your data is to actually not use just one column, but several columns. So you could make a file where you have, let's say, origin, destination. And here you could have transport routes. For instance, New York, LA, New York, Paris, New York, London, London, Paris, LA, San Francisco. Yeah. Let's just write Los Angeles here, just to be sure. And here we can choose a maybe type of travel, air, train, something like that, right? And then when you import this data, you can actually tell InfraNodus to analyze those two columns. So then it will analyze the connections that you have here, one to the other, and then you will be able to use this column as the filter, all right? So this is something that you can do with the CSV files and how you can prepare them to analyze this data. So then when I export this file here as a CSV file, and then I import it into InfraNodus as a CSV, all right, so I will select it from my downloads. Here I have that file. I will say, okay, I would like to analyze those two columns because I want to actually have each column as an edge, as a node, each value in each column as a node, and each co-occurrence as the connection. And here, what you need to do also is to say that you want to tag the whole cell as an entity, because you would like it to be a node, like the whole thing that you have in the cell is a node, and this is why you need to choose this. Tag the whole cell in an entity. Otherwise, if you have separate words, it will just analyze words. So that's important to choose that. And then on the next page, you choose type as the filter, click visualize, and look what we have here. We have a network of routes between different destinations, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, and here you can choose to see, okay, I just want to see only train routes. Here we only have this Paris-London one. And Los Angeles, San Francisco doesn't show for some reason. Sometimes you need to reload it. And then only the air routes. So here we have a little bug, but basically it should work. You know, you will be able to filter by those. Yeah, air here. So you can turn on the filter if the highlight doesn't work. And here we have only the train routes. Okay, so this is how you would use this other type of CSV file where you have the connections between the nodes. So it's like a knowledge graph that you're building, right? And then you apply those filters to see how they can be used. And by the way, when you have a knowledge graph like this, you can connect to it using our API, using a tool like N8N or Make, and then use this knowledge graph as an expert. We have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel how you can connect those graphs so that when you then connect it to your other AI workflows, you can use this connected data to retrieve really nice insights. For example, how to get from New York to San Francisco. It will tell you, okay, you can fly to LA and then take a train, for instance, right? So that would be how it works with this kind of CSV files. Okay, so let me just read more questions and then I will demonstrate another use case where we use survey responses. So it might be interesting for you if you're analyzing customer feedback or reviews or survey responses that you do for your product. So let me see if we have any more questions you would like me to answer. So Nigel is asking if there is a stop word that can be used. Yes, there's a standard list of stop words that is automatically added into the system, but you can add your own either here. So you have, if you turn on the advanced mode, you will be able to see advanced text processing options, and then you can add your stop words into words to hide. You have a helper here that explains the format, and you can also use a global one here in the settings. So you go to settings, stop words. Here you actually have a link to the list of the default stop words we use, but you can also modify it. using the syntax here and add your own or remove some of the stop words from the standard list. So you have a complete control over that if you're interested in doing that. And another question that Jack has, or it's more of a comment that he says that he transcribes MP3 files from meetings. So yeah, that could be one use, that you can just upload MP3 files and transcribe them and then analyze those transcripts. And then Nigel is also asking, would like to use it for a review of PPT presentation deck and then discover if the deck covers the right topic or has the right answers. So save as a PDF and import into InfraNodus. Exactly, yeah, this is exactly how you would do that. We might add automatic PPT processing after. And then let's see some other questions. So Una is saying, when InfraNodus links topics to their associated text, does it link to page and line numbers as well? I would assume this depends on the file type and how the line numbers are associated with the text of the transcript. Exactly, yeah, this is how it works. This question refers to the example you provided with the imported transcript. So here you would actually be able to see which text this topic is referring to. So let's say if I'm selecting a topic here, I will load this graph now, and then let's say I'm interested to analyze the cluster on family dynamics, right? I select this cluster here. So I see the filter here, and then it shows me from which actual transcripts those statements are. So I see that Jonathan is saying something about this topic, Toby, Jack, and Tristan and Rick, right? Not everyone is talking about that. And if I want to have a clearer idea of who those people are, I can go into filters. I can say that, okay, this topic now, I want it to be filtered in the graph, so this will be the only thing I see. I click filter, and then when I go back here, I will only see the names of the transcripts that relate to this topic. So that's 5 out of 7 people are talking about that. So that would be your way to understand who is saying certain things about specific ideas. And in the same way, you can also do this same workflow if you select certain terms and you want to see who are the people that are saying those specific things. So you will be able to see this in the tags here. So I hope that makes sense. Then Thomas is saying, could this tool be used to analyze the dynamic of a meeting, like who's talking most and to whom? Well, yes, indirectly you can do that, because once you have those filters, you can actually go here and say, okay, so for example, let's see how much Jonathan is saying. And we see that actually 12% of everything that was said was by Jonathan. If we deselect this and select Trish, we see that Trish spoke a little bit more, 14%. We have it here, the number of statements shown, right? And we can also see what exactly they said. So yes, you can use it to analyze who said what, but there are actually tools for that are made specifically to analyze dynamic of the conversation, like Read AI, for example. You can use that. In InfraNodus, what's much better is that once you select a certain person, you can see what exactly they said. This you don't really have in other tools. So yes, you can see how much they talked and also what exactly they said. All right. If we don't have more questions, let's go on and I will show you how you can analyze customer feedback and survey responses. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on YouTube or in our Q&A section. For some reason, chat, even though I made it available to everyone, doesn't seem to work. But you can use the Q&A section for that. All right, so let's move on. I will show you how to analyze surveys and customer reviews. So again, we upload the files here, go into File Upload, and here I have a really good data set. By the way, all these data sets are available in our support portal. So once you finish the webinar, you can get a link from our support portal if you just search for data sets, and you will be able to find all those files. So you can try this with these files and see how it works, and then you will understand a little bit better how to apply those filters. So here I have open-ended surveys. Actually, I have a few, so let me choose the one that is from mental health survey responses. So here are the responses of people where they talk about their mental health experiences at their work, right? So here is a CSV file, and we have several columns here that we can analyze. The column that I want to analyze now are what other conversations those people who responded to the survey had with their coworkers about their own mental health. So when they talk about their mental health, what are they talking about? Okay, so I select this column as the column that I will analyze. I could also select other columns. There's more data here, but I will just choose this one. And then for filtering, I will choose to have some segments that I will use for cohort analysis. So for instance, I will say that I would like to add information about their family history, so whether or not they had a mental disorder before, maybe also age, gender, country. So let's start with that. I will use those segments to analyze the responses by cohorts. And then I click next, give the name to this graph, click visualize. Exactly the same thing happens as before, where the text is visualized as a graph. And here I have all these categories. So now I can see that when people talk about their mental health at their work, and by the way, this is like a very well-known research survey that is available online, but you can also get it in our data sets section. You will see that, okay, we have some main topics that they talk about with their coworkers. And once again, I would suggest to remove the word coworker, because when people respond about their conversations with coworkers, they will use this word coworker a lot. So we want to remove it just to have a little bit more precise understanding of what else they're saying. All right. And then we turn on the topic clusters here, and we see that they talk about anxiety dynamics. Then they talk about work conversations, supportive understanding, mental awareness. What's really good about this is that I can go into sentiment analysis tab and use the built-in Google AI model to analyze sentiment. So by default, the very quick analysis is just using the words in the statements to tag those statements negative or positive. And that's very fast, but not so precise. So when you apply an AI model, then it shows you much more precisely what is the sentiment of those responses. And this allows me to choose the segment where people are saying only, let's say, negative stuff. Let's say I'm interested to see what are the negative conversations that people are having with their coworkers about mental health. So I select negative here. And now I see the topics that are associated only with the negative experiences: mental struggles, health awareness, project discussions, which is pretty interesting. So it's like how their mental health affects their work, and team support. And then I can go into filters and add something from filters. So let's say I would like to see how people in Europe are talking about this. I will select Netherlands, Germany, maybe continental Europe mainly, because usually that's quite interesting. And I can see that they talk a lot about workload, discussion, reaction, situation, discussing people felt. So how they felt about the workload and the effects of mental health on their workload, or how the workload affects them. Whereas if I select now other countries, like for example, let's say I want to see how people in the US are talking about their mental health, I'm going to highlight this, and then I can see that they're much more opening about the actual mental health problems they're having when they talk negatively about their experience. So that also shows me a little bit more about those differences by countries, and how in some countries people, when they have these discussions at work, will only talk about how it affects their work, whereas in some other countries they will actually open much more and speak about their personal experience to their colleagues. So that can be interesting insight if you're studying survey responses and if you want to understand a little bit better those different segments. And I can further filter it by age. So for example, I can say, okay, show me what people in the US are saying. So I will apply this filter, but also show me people in the age, let's say young age, and then now I want to see the overlap. So I'm going to select young age and overlap here. And then I can see that they're talking a lot about anxiety, depression, mental health, and so on. Whereas when I choose people of older age, 38 to 58, they're talking about similar stuff, but here they're talking a little bit more about inadequate boss syndrome, imposter, and so on, and stress and sleep. So that's interesting because imposter syndrome has seems to be something that concerns more older people here than younger people. So this is the kind of analysis you could do with those filters, analyze what the different cohorts are saying and how they're different from each other. Like I said, I like to use the highlight first just to get an overview of how these segments fit into the graph. But then if I want to perform more precise analysis, I'm always going to go to filter here and build a new graph from it just to see what those people are saying. Okay. So there I see that they're talking about their inadequate boss imposter syndrome, older age. Now I remove the age. I have the filters added here, and now I choose the young age filter recalculate, and here I see that they're focusing on slightly different things. Maybe their lunch, supportive, depression more than anxiety, for instance. That's interesting. You see that the depression is more prevalent among them. So that also gives me a really good understanding of young versus older people and so on. So really, this is like a very good way to understand how different cohorts of people think about those issues. You see, the older people are talking much more about anxiety, and the younger people are talking much more about depression. So this also gives us an understanding of how we could address those issues and how we could target the policies or different programs we have at the workplace to support them, because they have different needs. So this is where it can be really useful, and this is how we could apply it to cohort analysis. So let me just answer some of the questions again. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to also share another poll with you online. So this poll is about whether you have already tried InfraNodus segment filters before we started the webinar. So I just wanted to know if you've tried it before or not. The way that this questionnaire is made is some of you are not InfraNodus users yet, so I added this as an option if you haven't tried it, but because you're not a user, it's different if you haven't tried it because you didn't know about them. And I can see that a lot of people actually didn't know about them. So yeah, I'm happy that you could now learn a little bit about how they work and understand how powerful they can be, I hope, and use it in your own workflows. We will be also improving this feature much more in the coming days and weeks, especially to make useful for thematic analysis, where you would be able to tag several statements at once and give them new names. So for example, based on the selections or topics or insights you get, let's say, now I have the negative experience of people in the States that are from this age. So I would be able to select all those topics, and then now I can just copy them, but we will have another feature soon where you can tag them with an insight and say, okay, young people, US, negative. And then you would be able to add tags very easily to this and save some of your research insights this way and then share them with others. So that can be a very useful way to apply this. So I will just share the poll now so that you can see the results. Most people didn't know about these features. Some people knew about it, and almost a third, or let's say a quarter of people use them already. So that's good. At least some people knew about them, but most of people didn't know that they exist. And I hope that they will find it useful. And another thing, while I will be answering some of the questions that you might have, is that I have another poll, last poll actually, where I want to ask you if you understand how this new feature works. So the question is saying, do you understand how segment filters work? Yeah, please give me your honest feedback. If you don't understand how it works, please say so. And the way that these questions are phrased, as you can see, is that you haven't understood it before, but now you do, or you understood it before and you do, and then if you don't, then let me know. So I can see that some of the people still don't understand how they work. So for all of those people, please feel free to send us an email after this webinar and to ask the specific questions that you might have about using those filters, maybe describing your use case and the data you're working with, and then we can record a short demo for you showing how those filters work. So we can really try to explain to you how they function for your particular use case if you share your data with us, or just a sample of data, or just like tell us which data you tend to use so that we understand a little bit better how it could be useful for you. So I'm going to share the results of this poll also with you right now, so you can see that most of the people understand how they work now, so that's great. But some people don't, so for those who don't, please let me know if how we can help you with that. Then I will answer some questions now. So Thomas is saying, could this tool be used to analyze the dynamic of a meeting? Okay, so this we already had. And then Una is saying, is it possible to change the AI model used for each project using only Google's AI as opposed to ChatGPT? So at the moment, not really, because our experience is that ChatGPT works the best for analyzing this data. And as you can see, there's a lot of various AI features. So you have to tailor prompt those models in a very specific way. And if we add more models, it's difficult. But also, to be honest, I don't quite understand why you would actually need a different model here if you just need an insight on, let's say, like a summary of the statements or on the name of the topic. So if you tell me why you would need that, I would be very curious to know, because I know that a lot of people like the idea of being able to switch the models, but I don't quite get what is the particular use case for being able to do that, apart from the fact that maybe Gemini works faster, but this can also be a problem that we can solve inside InfraNodus itself. So Una is saying to align with our company standards for AI usage. So are the company standards then that you have to be able to check the response from several models, or they make you use a specific model? This I would be very interested in knowing. But while I'm answering this question, then yes, like in fact, we will be adding Gemini because it works faster for some things like summarization, for instance. So yes, this will be possible. And also, just like Mark Philip answered in the chat, you can actually use InfraNodus plugin in VS Code, and there you can choose a model that you use. So in VS Code, it's like an advanced text editor that's usually used for coding, but you can use InfraNodus in there, get your data, use the graph, and then send the prompts from the graph to the model that you like. So if you would like to even use it with a local model, you could do that as well using this approach. Let me know if you have any other questions. Also on YouTube in the Q&A or in the chat. And in the meanwhile, I will see if I have any other examples to share with you. So let me just see if I have any other data sets. I think for now, one use case that I like to show is actually this list of grants that EU is giving. So that's pretty interesting, because it's basically like a huge file of the grants that they issued a few years ago, or grant calls. And let's say I want to understand what are the main topics or areas for which those grants were offered. So I choose to analyze title page, and then as the filter, I can use the type of the project and the program. Okay, and then I click visualize, give this name the graph, click visualize. It's quite a huge file. I think it's 26 megabytes, so it's going to take some time, but I want to show you how you can use the filters to even analyze grants. So that could be an interesting use case if, for example, you want to analyze the titles of the papers at the conference, or patent applications, anything you want that has a list of names and data, and you would like to use the same filters. So here it's the same thing. We have a visualization of what EU is giving their grants in, and I can see the main topics here: support program, research ecosystem, system management, energy. Innovation is the main topic actually here, right? And then if I would like to filter it by the program, for instance, let's say interregional innovation investments, the same thing. I select this, turn on filter, click filter and recalculate, and see that actually there's not that many projects given for interregional investments. But if I click for example, health program, let's see here, there's something about information and European systems. So that's interesting, because I can see directly that if I'm interested in health programs, I use the filter to filter the graph just by this, and then I see the exact grant which is offered in this area. Information system to monitor NSS cancer screening program. So that's really great. And as you can see, you can also use this approach to quickly find the information you need in a large set of data. So this is also how filters could be used to find the stuff that you need. All right, so I think this will be the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, please let me know. The workflows that I demonstrated can be used not only for survey analysis, but also for customer feedback analysis, or if you're analyzing customer reviews, analyzing search engine, keyword ranks, and any kind of content. So if you're interested in that, we have data sets available on our support portal, which I will leave a link to in the chat right now, but you can also just find it on support.noduslabs.com. If you type in data sets, you will be able to have access to those data sets and run the same analysis on them to understand how they work a little bit better. We also have this webinar streaming on YouTube and saved on YouTube on our YouTube channel, Nodus Labs. So you will be able to come back to it after. I will put time codes later so that you can see exactly the workflows we used and understand how they work. And if you have any questions, please let us know. You can feel free to write to me and ask any questions you have. Send samples of your data, and I will be happy to record a little demo for you showcasing how this works. So yeah, I hope you find this webinar useful. Thank you for joining in today. I will be posting more videos soon about using this feature. We also have a lot of different content on our support portal about using those segment filters, and we'll be adding more features soon. If you have any wishes, it's a good time to let us know because we're building this feature right now actively. And like I said, also please don't forget to install the 3D visualization module so that you can test run it and see how it works. Give us some feedback for what you would like to have. And we will be soon implementing it into the main version as well. So thank you very much for your attention. I will just check one last time if we have any more questions. I think we're good for now. And somebody said on YouTube that we missed the first part. Can you share the recorded link? So you're actually watching now the live webinar on YouTube. And if you go at the beginning of this webinar, you will be able to see the beginning. So you will be able to find it very easily. All right. Well, thank you very much again for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I will be seeing you soon. You will receive an email after this webinar where we will be asking you for some feedback. Please give your honest responses so I know where and how we can improve it. Thank you very much, and have a great day